Hi, I'm Mika, and it's time for a brief but magical tour of Disney's history. Walt Disney was born in 1901 to Irish-German parents. After a brief career as a cartoonist, he started an animation company called Laugh-O-Grams. It went bankrupt, but Disney raised enough money to start a new company with his brother Roy, and called it the Disney Brothers Studio. Disney's early success depended on Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, but because Universal Studios owned the character, Walt had to make up another mascot when he left Universal in 1928. So, he came up with Mortimer Mouse. Luckily, his wife Lillian didn't like the name, so he became Mickey Mouse. Mortimer became Mickey's devious rival.
Mickey, I want you to meet Mortimer.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mickey was the star of the world's first cartoon with fully synchronized sound, Steamboat Willie. Walt provided the voice of Mickey himself. It was a huge hit, and this new success led Disney to start Silly Symphonies, a series which included the first colored Disney film called Flowers and Trees in 1932. This was back when casual racism was okay. Just wow. Up to this point, Disney only made short films, but in 1934, Disney began work on his first feature-length animated film, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It took 3 years and $1.5 million to make. That's 6 times higher than its original budget, and Walt had to mortgage his house to keep it going. Luckily, it became the highest-grossing film of all time, and Walt used its success to create Walt Disney Studios in California, where he made Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, and Bambi.
Good morning. Nice sunny day.
Unfortunately, World War II happened, and most of Disney's animators were drafted into fight. Further feature films were put on ice, including Peter Pan and Alice in Wonderland, but Disney still managed to animate propaganda cartoons throughout the war, like this little gem.
1, 2, 3, hi! 1, 2, 3, hi! 1, 2, 3, hi! 1, 2, 3, hi!
This was the golden age of Disney. Disney dipped into live-action movies as well as resurrecting the animated films stopped by the war. Disney's first completely live-action film was Treasure Island with actor Robert Newton as Long John Silver. He invented the whole "Army Hearties" accent for pirates that we know and love, except his is much better than mine.
I'd be most interested to tell your crew what your trusted partner were proposing to do with that there treasure.
In the mid-50s, Disneyland opened, but it owes a big debt to Coca-Cola. They helped Disney make its first ever TV series called Disneyland. The name stuck, and Walt chose it for the theme park. Around this time, Xeroxing was developed, and Disney was more than happy to keep costs down by simply reusing animations. This is especially obvious in the Robin Hood dance scene. Sadly, Walt died in 1966. Just before he passed away, he wrote a note which simply said, "Kurt Russell."
Who the hell are you anyway?
Without Walt, the studio started to struggle. The 70s was a strong decade creatively, but not commercially, and by the 80s, the company was branching out into darker and more male-oriented movies to find a new audience. Weirdly, they tried this and failed again in the noughties. It didn't really work the first time, and new management was brought in to freshen things up. One of the new guys was Jeffrey Katzenberg, who would later form DreamWorks. Katzenberg's main influence on the directors and animators was to insist on more edge, at the same time bringing back the old magic of Disney movies. The first film he oversaw was The Little Mermaid, and this ushered in the second golden age of Disney that lasted most of the 90s. Disney continued to be bold and bust boundaries, and this included computer animation. In 1995, they released their first feature film from a little studio called Pixar. Heard of it?
This is Falling with Style.
Ironically, Pixar's success led to the death of traditionally animated Disney movies, although they tried to bring it back with The Princess and the Frog. Instead, Disney pursued big, live-action blockbusters based on its Disneyland rides. First Pirates of the Caribbean, then Haunted Mansion, and now Tomorrowland.
You want to go?
Disney's big blockbusters may be a little too reliant on Johnny Depp, but they're doing okay. At the same time, Disney moved on to its own computer-animated movies, at first with mixed success, but now with world-conquering awesomeness.
Let it go! let it go.
Although I'm not sure they need to keep reimagining classic cartoons. After more than 90 years, the Disney empire is now worth $75 billion and owns most of our favorite movies. They even got Oswald the Lucky Rabbit back. So, that's all you need to know about Disney. Did any of it surprise you? Thanks for watching All Time Movies. See you next time! You probably spotted that Rapunzel and Flynn Rider from Tangled are sneaking into the castle here. But they're not the only Disney characters visiting Arendelle. This couple looks suspiciously like Prince Naveen and Tiana from The Princess and the Frog.